Welcome to the Resiliency of the Human Spirit podcast, where we share all about human triumphs for the collective's healing and empowerment. I'm your host, Priscilla Hanley. My guest today is Erica Wiederlight. Erica is the founder of We the Light. She is a confidence coach, speaker, podcaster, Reiki Master, and angel card reader. Her work helps clients feel radiant and embodied and to get their groove back. Her work has been featured in Epoch Times, Galore, and Cosmopolitan magazine. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Erica on right now. Hi.
Hello. Hi. Hello.
Hi, Erica. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very excited to chat today. It's going to be great.
Thank you so much for taking the time to connect with me today and also with our audience. So, Erica, it sounds like you have had a very interesting journey.
Yes, you could definitely say that. That's a fair thing to say.
Cool. So I don't want to waste any time. I'll just jump right in and have you share your story on how everything started for you.
Yeah, it's funny. I say this a lot, and I've been saying this a lot recently because I think sometimes I'm surprised, but I never in a million years thought, I mean, now this is my life. I'm so accustomed to it. This is my norm, but I think back in my 20s, teens, I would have never in a million years expected to be here doing this work. I just would have been like, what are you talking about? But it was through my own journey that I quite literally felt the need to do this work. It wasn't, oh, I want to start a business. No, it was, wow, I've been through some stuff. I've worked these tools. I want to give that to other people to help them. So I never expected this. It kind of was quote unquote random, but of course not random at all. But I'll give you the backstory is I slowly started this work, like I said, out of a need for myself. I was having a dark night of the soul, if you will. I had friends pass in 1 year. I had three friends pass away. My mom was dealing with a cancer diagnosis. I was dealing with a breakup, and I was moving through a relationship with my body with an eating disorder. And so it was kind of like a sink or swim. Like it was like, oh my gosh, I am so overwhelmed. And honestly, with my mom's cancer diagnosis, I slowly started to do different trainings out of the desire to help her and myself. And then it started to snowball. And it's funny with the business, like I was like, I'm not starting a business. I'm starting a business, but I'm going to have people over and help them. It's like, that's a coaching session, Erica. Or, I'm going to have a group of people. That's a workshop. But like, I was like, no, no, no. Like, I'm strictly just helping people. And that's how it started. Honestly, it was a desire to help my mom, to help myself. And that's where this whole journey began. And I'm so grateful for it.
Nice. It seems like you were resistant to starting a business, were you?
Yes.
Why?
I was like, no. Okay, so I grew up and at 8 years old I started doing theater. And so my whole life, or not my whole life, since I was 8, probably a little bit younger, but like I was like, I am dead set on being an actress. And I still do acting now. I actually was on set yesterday for something and I do voiceovers, but I saw no world where I wasn't just an actress. And so I think that was part of it that I was like, no, 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 no. This is, I was like, no, this is getting in the way of the plan. So that's kind of why I was so resistant to it, that I just was so laser focused on acting. And this thing quite literally was like, hi, and I was like, okay. And now I'm thrilled that I do it. But yeah, that's part of the resistance is I had my eye on something else.
Yeah, but now you're doing both. Isn't that
I
fantastic?
know. It
Right?
is. Really quick, you'll find this funny. I used to go on like yoga retreats and walk labyrinths because part of my brain was like, I have to pick one. So I'd be like, am I doing acting or am I doing the business? Am I doing acting or doing the business? And I had a lot of shame about that for many years. Recently, I was pitched to do an article. I think story is actually interesting. Pitched to do an article, and the woman was so offended that I had an acting background. She's like, is she a good coach then? And I was like, yes, because like I want to live all of my desire. Like for a long time, I had shame about that. Like be one or be this. And it's like, no, I want to practice what I preach. You know what I mean? Like I preach having a life that you love and creating a life you love. And it's like part of my life, I love coaching. I love speaking. I love podcasting. I also love being on set. I also love doing voiceover. So I'm like, this is exactly like this is exactly why I'm a good coach, is because I'm practicing what I'm walking my walk and talking my talk. So thanks for highlighting that. I think that's important that we get to be all the things, you know?
Mhm. I think human nature, it's been ingrained in us to either pick one. Oh, you gotta,
Yes.
be a doctor or be a lawyer, do this or do that. But I think the way of the universe is to do everything that you
Yes.
can, right? That brings
Y-
you joy.
exactly. I'm like, this is, I mean, this is who I am. And for someone might hate that. They might be like, that's too much chaos. Like that's not, and that's cool, but that's how I want to do life. So, and I'm glad I got to that point of acceptance because I was really mad at myself that I didn't fit into society's norm for many
Um,
years. And I'm glad I'm like, no, this is who I am. And that's great. So thanks for highlighting that.
so after your mom's diagnosis, and then you found your way to different modalities, and then what happened next?
Yeah. So different modalities. And I was like, okay, I started doing traditional life coaching and it was great. It was awesome. Um, I did have trouble communicating what I did though, because some people were like, "What does that mean? You can change my life?" You know what I mean? Like it was hard to talk about because I'm like, "It's magical," and people are like, "What does that mean? Like, how is this going to change my life?" And while that was happening, I was getting my sex, love, and relationship training, my pleasure training, and then I was like, "Oh." You know what I mean? Sure, from a business perspective, but I was like, oh, like these are all the things I love. This is spiritual. This is like for me, I was like, okay, this is my special sauce. This is my niche. A lot of similar practice overlapped in my old life coaching practice, but it was a little bit of a tweak. And that's how I started shifting into that space, which was super exciting and fun and vulnerable and all the feels.
So talk a little bit more about that space. You said sex, love, and relationship. So
Yes.
from your perspective, what are the issues that humanity is facing right now in that area?
Oh my God. Okay.
I know
I'm
that's a
like,
big question.
yeah, I'm like, we could go through a Rolodex. Um, so many. So I'll just start really quickly with pleasure is most of us feel and pleasure could even be, yes, sexual, sensual pleasure, but pleasure could be like really enjoying the jazz band, that you're at a cafe, or really enjoying your parfait. Like that's that's pleasure. And we don't feel often I talk to clients and I talk to people and they don't feel that they deserve it. They feel they're lazy, they're disgusting if they enjoy life. They feel, oh, I'll do that. I could do that, but that's a treat after I lose 20 pounds, after I get the person, after I get the promotion. And we live our life. So often people live their life in, oh, I'll do that. I'll do that later on. And they keep pushing that off. So that's the pleasure thing. I see that. Sex, there's so many things. Sex and relationships, there's so many, again, different stories. It's dirty, it's disgusting. I'm not worthy of this. It's not important. Collectively, we hold, as you know, so many stories, so many belief system, culturally, religious, we all hold different stories on these things. And that part of my job, before we even go and talk about let's thrive, sexually or in your body, I'm like, wait, let's talk about what stories were you told about this? What stories you hold? Because you know the deal. We can't run towards this empowered person if we're still holding these stories of shame and stuckness. So first step working with clients is let's unpack some of these stories that society taught us. And there's many, as you can
I
imagine.
know. So let's unpack this a little bit. So when you say we need to unpack the belief systems, right? What are
Yeah.
some practices or techniques that you can recommend to us to help us to start maybe discerning that the belief systems that I'm carrying might not even be mine? Like I picked it up
Ooh,
from somewhere else and I'm
yeah.
kind of living my life on a belief that's not even mine.
I think you just nailed it. Is like getting familiar with our thoughts. Obviously, we're not going to track them all throughout the day, right? Like we have so many thoughts, we're not going to be able to catch them all. But I think so often we don't even notice the thoughts. We just believe them. We just believe them and we keep it moving. And so my first invitation is just listening and get curious. So if you're like, oh, to example, pleasure's disgusting, it's like, hold on, before I act on that, where did I get that? Like, is that my true, is that my truth? If so, cool. But where did I get that messaging from? Or you don't even have to go as deep as where, but is that mine? So I think you nailed something, is like just having the discernment to listen and be like, is that mine? I will give this practice. I often do mindset with my clients. I mix mindset and embodiment. But for me, I always write out my fears. So pretend I want a goal, right? This is a simple one. Like, I want this in my business. And then, it's like, why don't I have this? I'm sad. Why don't I have this? And then I start journaling. I'm like, well, that's why I don't have it. I'm scared. And I start to see the fears that I hold around it. So that's also an exercise, right? Like, you could track your belief system, but I also start to write them out. So I might be like, I want this in my business. And then I write the fear. Yeah, but I'm actually really scared if I have that much money, will I be hated? Or dot, dot, dot. Like, I start to list out the fears, and then underneath the fear, I start to push back on that. So is that true? Like, I ask myself, is this truth? Is this dead honest reality? Because then we could talk about that. But most of the time I'm like, oh, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. But like we said, I have to investigate what's going on in my brain to see, is this even true? You know what I mean?
Right, right. Wow, that's a good point. Yeah, I think journaling is very powerful
Totally.
practice because in a way you're kind of getting the thoughts out of your system. You're putting it down on paper, right? And then
Exactly.
when it's down on paper, you can actually see sometimes the thoughts are ridiculous, right?
Right. Right. I was like, wait. And I was like, no, no, no one will understand. No one will understand. I put it on paper. I'm like, that's what's been holding me back. You know what I mean? I'm like, that sounds wild. And that's okay. But like, I could see, oh, I was making this a really big thing and there wasn't really much truth to it. And I get to, push back lovingly on myself and be like, Erica, that's not true. Or you'll be safe if you do the thing, So yeah, I think it's a powerful modality and exercise.
Right. So on the topic of pleasure, I want to ask you, so for someone who has gone through personal trauma,
Yeah.
or maybe, they suffered a violation on their body, how can they find pleasure in their life again?
Oof, that's such a good question. And it's so possible. I could get emotional saying this. I've worked with lots of people that face different types of traumas, and it was so scary because often, a violation, often that means someone has taken advantage or tried to take your power from them or vice versa. Someone tried to violate that, and it feels really unsafe to access your power again. And I'm here to say, first of all, I understand. I see you, and there's a way to do this in a safe way, in a way that is honoring to the person. That's why when I work individually with people, I never have a set, I just think that's not one size fits all, especially, we all have different triggers. We have all things that make us safe and unsafe. And I say that because I think that's par for this healing, is noticing what makes us feel safe. How can we create safety? And so I never push, let's just do pleasure, because someone might be like, whoa, I put it in increments. So can we do 1% more pleasure today? Can we do 2% more pleasure? Or, like, I would never have someone jump into something where it's like, Erica, I feel very unsafe. So I really try to, there's a definition that we use often in the coaching world that I'm sure you're familiar with, is the idea of titration. Like, we never go from 0 to 60 because that will burn, the deal, that will burn someone's nervous system out. So for this, we go 0 to 1 or 0 to 0.5. And 0.5 might be like, Erica, I have capacity to sip my kombucha and enjoy it for quite literally 3 seconds. And that's all I could take today. Fabulous. Let's try it. So for us, that we really slowly compound pleasure and safety. We want to make sure it's safe. We want to make sure We track how you're feeling in your body. So that's the long answer, but the short of it is we make it in a way that feels very safe and very digestible. We want it to feel like, okay, I got this. I could do this. It's an edge, but it's a safe edge. And we slowly compound
Right.
that.
So it seems like pleasure can be considered like to have pleasure, you gotta have self-love, right? It
You
it
do.
seems like there's a connection there.
It is. Vice versa. Vice
Right.
versa. Like when I started my pleasure journey and I did a lot of self-work pre. But it's so funny. For me, nothing was more transformative on my self-love journey than pleasure. Because what was happening was the more pleasure I allowed myself to receive, somewhere in my brain and in my body, it was telling me I was worthy, which I think is powerful. So like by doing these things, okay, like I said, I'm gonna really enjoy this movie, or I'm gonna really be present to the sensations of my body. The more I allowed that, I felt, oh, like somewhere in my body it unlocked, oh, I'm worthy of having good things. I'm worthy and deserving of receiving goodness. So like you said, the self-love, the pleasure journey is so deeply entwined. Like they were so healing and they were just so in conjunction with one another for me, definitely.
Right. And so how did you get to be a confidence coach from pleasure, sex, and relationship? How did you take a detour, I guess, into confidence coaching?
Yes. Well, I try to do it in a way that has all of those things infused. So sometimes I'll say, I'm a pleasure-based love coach, or I'm a pleasure-based confidence coach. For me, they're so deeply connected. I really started to feel confident when I had a relationship with embodiment, when I had a relationship with pleasure. Because for me, I was a very and I still have moments of it, but I was a very not as a kid, but got to a point where I was a very self-conscious person. And I was always in my head, just like in my head, making myself wrong, never in my body. And the work of pleasure got me into my body. And also, when I was really about pleasure, for me, it was my highest form of integrity because I didn't have to like be weird and take from other people. You know what I mean? Like energetically, like I was like, I am well resourced. And so that also is connected with the confidence too. The feeling filled up because I didn't need to prove or I didn't need to perform. I'm confident. Like I really felt well taken care of and well resourced. So for me, those things again became kind of interchangeable. Like I was like, I don't really care what you think, which was wild for me because I cared what everyone thought. But like I was like, I'm on the journey of caring what lights me up, what lights my family up, what's like in the best interest of all. Like that was what I was after versus do you like me? Am I likable? So like I was more after like let's be filled up, let's be radiant. So I wasn't really caring. You know what I mean? So for me
Right.
it such was a connector to the confidence.
So then what does self-confidence mean to you, like in 3 words? I'll let
Ooh, I love it.
three
Oh, it's so
keywords.
good. Three keywords. Self-confidence to me is truth, alignment, and authenticity.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank
I
you.
agree. I agree. And so, okay, I want to go back to pleasure now. Okay.
Yeah.
How can we use pleasure as a healing modality?
Yeah, I think kind of what we just talked about with trauma, right? It's like creating safety in our body. Pleasure is a lived experience, and that could be so healing and so revolutionary. So for me, again, my healing journey was skyrocketed with pleasure because like I said, it made me feel safe in my body. I had a different relationship with my body. For me, it was the healing of all healings. For like I said, for years I did therapy and this and that. They were all great. I love them all. But pleasure taught me, like I said before, taught my brain, my body, that it's safe to have good things. I could hold good things. Also, I could do scary things. And when scary things happen, I could hold myself because I was terrified of scary things too, that I didn't want to do like I was in freeze. And so pleasure taught me, okay, E, great, we can have all the good things, but you also could handle when things aren't good. I trust in you to handle all of the things. So healing, it's so funny because people are like pleasure could be healing, it could be a healing balm. And I'm like, it can. Also, I'll say this really quickly is pleasure can be gentle on the nervous system, right? Like it's a warm hug, whatever flavor it is, it's a warm hug, right? Like it's a warm hug. It's a place of safety. So it's so powerful as we grow. It's so powerful as we change and things move because it's that warm hug.
You said something that kind of stood out to me. You said have a relationship with your body.
Yeah.
What are some tips that you would give us to kind of like help us to get connected with our body? Because I know
Yeah.
our body sends us messages all the time, right? And if you're
Yes.
not listening, you're probably going to get physical illnesses in the long
Yeah.
run if you're not listening to the messages that your body is sending you. So, like I said, what are some tips that you can recommend to us to
Yeah.
help us to be more conscious of the messages that our body is sending us, and also to kind of like cultivate a relationship with our body? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think awareness is the first step. So often we just don't presence it. It's like, I got to move this forward. I have this to do. I have this to do. And it's like, that still can exist. But presence, like, do we ever slow down enough, even in a conversation, and be like, oh, I could feel my back. I could feel this before any visualization or exercise I do with my clients. We might do these deep exercises. I'll have them close their eyes and be like, what are you feeling in your body right now? What sensations? And they're like, oh, and I'm like, let's go there. And like, I feel a tingle in my left shoulder because, I feel this. And why we do that is for them to feel safe, but them to feel their body. And it's permission for them to feel their body more and more and more. And often, right, it's a great tool because, like you said, preventing illnesses, knowing what's going on. I'll speak too. I'm someone that naturally it has a lot of anxiety. This work has helped me a lot. And so my first place is anxiety. Like that's the first place I go to. And the body work helps me again be like, is this true? Like I access new levels of intuition because of my body work. Otherwise, I'd be like, huh, like I would have just been an anxious. And so through the embodiment, like today I was having a little bit of anxiety and I was like, okay, I gotta get into my body. And I was like, is this true? And I was like, no, I'm okay. I'm safe. And so we all do that differently, right? Like for me, I love sensual movement. That means essentially I do moving meditation. So I move with music. That has been so helpful. Other folks like to go on walks. Other people just want to sit in meditation or maybe feel like just even feel. I give this to my clients like, what touch do you want today? Is it a scratch? Is it a hold? Is it putting, your hand, giving space between your hand and your body? Like, what do you need? And so often we don't know that. And so I think first and foremost is having the desire or the intention to bring that into our life. It doesn't need to be this big transformative journey, but the desire to, I want to start to be more my body and then seeing what that looks like for you, right? Because we all have different pathways into that.
Right. So what would you tell like a mom who has like three kids running around and she has a whole list of,
Yep.
household chores to do, and she's like, Erica, I love you, but I don't have time to connect
Yes.
with my body. What are you gonna tell her?
It's funny. I have quite a few moms and parents, and they're like they're screaming in the back. I can only we had a 60-minute session today, I only have 10. I'm like, that's fine. So that we become like I love rituals, right? I love who doesn't want to go and do a retreat or a 60-minute ritual. That's not realistic for everyone all the time. Like they're great, we love them. I almost invite my clients to live as a ritual. Sometimes we can't. Kids are quite literally throwing up on us or pulling our hair and like it's not what's the truth right now. And so I'll even have clients if they're like I can't do a sensual movement class or I don't even have time for a walk. I'm like, "Okay, as you're waiting to in carpool, can you just feel your fingertips or as they're screaming, can you feel your fingertips on your arm or your stomach? Like can you just start to breathe and be in your body? Can you feel the sensations in your body? Can you feel, oh, I'm actually angry. I'm frustrated that I haven't had time for me or I feel quite content. Like again, I love these big rituals. I love, who wouldn't want to go to a sensual movement class? Who wouldn't want to go on a walk? That's not available for all of us, and that's why I love this work is how can we make this work within our circumstances? How
Right.
can we make this? And that's the 1% more pleasure rule too, right? It's like who wouldn't want to be, I always joke, who wouldn't want to be eating grapes and being feathered? Like who everyone, not whatever, everyone wants their different flavor of that, like a beautiful, extravagant pleasure journey, but what's 1%? What's 1%? I want to give a quick tool. I always ask myself, or I try to ask myself, is this moment crunchy or lit up and turned on? Meaning, do I feel that like pleasure? And again, some circumstances, like you can't, sometimes it's crunchy and we have to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like I'm paying my taxes. It's crunchy. It is what it is. Like that's just situational. But some things where it's like I'm at the DMV or I'm driving from soccer to ballet to baseball. Okay, I'm feeling crunchy. Here's the question I want you to ask yourself. How can I make this moment more pleasurable? This moment, and maybe it's, you know what, we do a sing along all together. Like maybe it's we do a sing along, or maybe it's I'm going to put the music off and we all do quiet time. And as we do quiet time, I touch my hand and I just take one deep breath for today. But I consistently ask myself, okay, Erica, in this moment, how do I make this more pleasurable? And it's not going to be a 10. It's not going to be usually boas and rainbows and glitter, though I love that. But it's like in this particular moment, how can I find my radiance? And that's what I would give to really parents, moms that are so busy. It's like, we don't need this huge ritual in this moment. How can we add just 1% or just tune it up just a little bit?
Right. I like that. I think the key here is slowing down a little bit for five
Yeah.
minutes.
Yep.
Just and the self-love bit comes in again. Just slow down for 5 minutes and give yourself some love for 5 minutes, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly. And that's part of why people are resistant to pleasure too. Because some of us carry a story, I'm not worthy. I'm not deserving of it. So it's all right. Forget it. Like we'll do anything before pleasure. We'll put that on the back burner and put anything before that. But we're worthy and deserving of filling our cup. And I'll say this too, especially since we talked about moms. So often I hear moms, parents be like, "Oh, like how could I do that? Is this work so selfish?" And I'm like, "You are filling your cup back up for you, but for your family. Like you're changing patterns within your lineage. You're teaching your children how to respect themselves, how to advocate for themselves, how to be kind to themselves. So I know a lot of our first impulse is, oh my gosh, is this work so selfish? Am I taking away? No, you're refilling your cup so you can be the best parent you could be. So your kids can learn how to be resourced and have nourish their nervous system. And you're giving them a huge gift. So I always like to say that because I know I can hear listeners already be like, is this selfish? Like is this a good thing to do? And it's, as we know, it refuels us, but it refuels the people in our lives and throughout all of our circles.
Yeah, what's that saying? You got to fill your cup before you can give it to anybody else, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And the great thing is it starts to overflow. I know when I'm in overflow, I don't even feel like I'm giving. You know what I mean? And when we're depleted, we feel like when we're giving. Like if we're at zero and kids are pulling our hair or whatever the situation may be, you feel that. And then
Mhm.
often we have resentment because we're like, what? Like it's quicker to burn out. But when I'm in overflow, I'm like, whatever. Like I'm of course, we have boundaries, but I'm less likely to be, oh my gosh, from that type of thing. I'm like, of course, like I can give, come on, I got this. Like I can give from an overfilled cup. And I understand how it's like, it could be nerve wracking at first, but we can really give from a different place than give from depletion and resentment.
Yeah, I love that. So, do you have a couple client success stories to share with us?
Yes. Oh my God, so many. Okay. I'm like
Nice.
trying to think. I'm like, okay, who should I talk about? I have so many great clients. They're just such amazing people. They're amazing because they're amazing. And I think they're amazing too because this work, as we know, takes a lot of bravery and it's worth it, right? Like it's really easy to avoid this work. It's really easy to put it on the back burner. So I say to everyone, I'm like, I'm so proud of you. Like I'm so proud of you for doing this. I know you could do 106 things before this, but I have some amazing stories about clients starting dream relationships. One that's really sticking out to me is I have a fantastic client who really had a tumultuous relationship with herself, really hated herself. And she's always like, share my story. She's like, put up the Instagram post. You can talk about me. I'm like, okay. But had a really tumultuous relationship with herself. Every time I was like talking about being in your body, she's like, I don't know what that means. And now she's completely the other, like flipped. And she has a relationship with herself that's loving and nurturing. And this is so silly. She even, with how she would dress, like she'd say, I used to hide in outfits or I wouldn't go out. I would hide in summer. I wouldn't wear certain clothes in the summer. She's like, and now I'm exploring. Like I'm wearing things that make me feel lit up, and I'm asking for job promotions, and I'm in a relationship. I finally feel confident to be in a relationship. She's in an amazing relationship. And I see this time and time again with clients, which is like the deepest privilege of all, watching people go through this. And also, like I said, her story is similar to many. I've had many of these types of situations, but a lot of people walk in and they're like, what is being in your body? Like they may take a class with me and be like, I liked you. I don't know why I'm here. I don't really know what we're doing. And then after they're like, oh my gosh, now I understand what it means to have a relationship with pleasure. Now I know what it means to be embodied. Now I know what it means to have self-love or take care of myself. So I'm very grateful that her story, I'm so blessed that that's her story, but it's among many that have had that transformational journey, which is so cool.
Nice. You are doing such profound work, right? You
Thank
do you
you.
do know that, right?
Thank you. I know I have to remind myself sometimes because I'm like, wow, this is wild.
Yes.
This is amazing.
Yeah, and you're living your highest potential because like you
Thank
say,
you.
you like doing the voiceovers and the acting, and you're also doing this. So it's like your life is you're at your highest expression, I want to say.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So, okay, let's shift now to your business. We've been talking a lot about the work that you're doing, but what kind of programs do you have for the
Yeah.
collective?
I love this. I'm actually so I used to have some help. I lost the words. I used to have some courses, but I all took them down to revamp as I changed. You know what I mean? I've had my business
Hmm.
for years. So as I changed, I tweak. So I am going to be having some take your time, do as you please courses that folks could really take their time, especially we have busy lives. You know what I mean? Like, take your time, work through the programs. So I have that coming up in the next few months, which is great. You can get on my email list and I could announce that you get my email list. It's wethelight.org, www.wethelight.org. I also do courses. Like I said, workshops. I do a ton of corporate workshops, which is awesome. So a lot of speaking events. I go to corporate. I do tons of those types of events. I also do group coaching and then one-to-one coaching. Because for me, people shine in different places, right? Like someone might feel really safe in group coaching. Someone might
Hmm.
say, I do not want to talk with other people about this. I want one to one. Someone
Right.
else might be like, I never want to talk to you, Erica. I want to do your course. You know what I mean? Like it's way too much. I don't want to. I want to dip in and dip out. And so that's why I like to make different modalities for people so they feel safe. And it's the best way to hold them. And so that's why I really like to have different options. And all those options are on my website, which I said, which is wethelight.org.
So you talked about new classes that you're working on. Like what specifically, like what topics that you're
Yeah,
working on?
pleasure, self-love, sexual
Okay.
embodiment, all the goodness. And I also do like I said in my group programs, the great thing is I have monthly events. So if someone's like, I don't want to commit, some people, which some coaches, this is great. They're like, it's a year commitment. I don't do that. Someone might be like, I just want to join for May. Just join for May. You know what I mean? Like I try to keep it very honoring and low stress. And each month we do different themes. So this spring, a few months ago, we did like when now we're stepping into summer, but we were doing stepping into spring, and it was all about releasing and renewal. And some folks were like, I just want to come to the spring class. Great. Some months might be sexuality, some might be self-love, some might be mindset. So I always say get on my newsletter because then you see, I don't really have any interest in this one this month. No problem. We'll see next month. So I like to create places where people would feel like is best and most honoring for them.
Right. And you mentioned sexual embodiment. Let's go there because I have no clue
Yes.
what sexual embodiment means. Can you tell me?
Yes. Yeah. So for me, really, I use sexual embodiment, but sexual empowerment is the thing that I really like to use. And for me, that journey is someone that may have felt, which is kind of all of us at one point. I always say broken, inadequate, just has a crunchy relationship around sexuality. And that whatever that means for you, right? Like we all have different meanings. But if they feel crunchy or stuck or around that topic, we unpack that, right? Like we work through that. We work through what's their truth. Often in the world of sexuality, as we know, it's what we see is very performative, very over the top, very for uh performing essentially for it has to look a certain way. And so often we don't even know what we want. We don't even know, back to our truth, we don't even know our truth. And so I work with clients, what is your sexual story? What do we want to let go of? What do we want to shed? What's your truth? How do you want to be held in this? Because often it's such that we get the messaging that it's not our own. And so we don't feel like we have that power. It feels like, I guess this is this thing, and uh, like we feel like we're following this thing. And so I try to help people reclaim their power around sexuality, whatever that means. And for someone that may be, I have no desire to, for I would not like to engage in this, or I'd like to engage this with, or it's just with myself, or it's just da da da, but it's taking that power back for themselves.
I like that. I like that.
Thank you.
Okay, so now you have a free gift for our audience. You're
Yes,
so kind with your free gift. So
of
I'll let
course.
you elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, I love free things. So because I joke because I think everyone should have access to this work. I think, I could to go on a tangent, I won't, but I hate having it feel like it's only reserved for these people. No, this should be a conversation for everyone. So I really believe in free gifts. So I have a ton of free gifts on my website, like I said, www.wethelight.org. I have my free ebook on there. There's other gifts as well, but this, especially within this conversation, the ebook is From Perfectionist to Pleasure Expert. And it's great. It's quick read, thank God, lots of tools, how we can start to bring pleasure in a safe way into our life. That's awesome. If you're like, hey, Erica, I want a little bit more, I have a free 60-minute, quite literally no strings attached. It's just a resource. Call. And people are like, wait, for real? I'm like, yes, take it. You know what I mean? Like, it really is no strings attached. Of course, if you're like, hey, I really like you, can I get into a group or do we fit one to one? We could have that conversation. But some people are like, I just want this right now. And this is what I can. And I'm like, let's do that then, like, or I could point you somewhere else. So it's a great resource. I always say to people, take it. You know what I mean? Take the resource. So it's a 60-minute conversation and it's called the Mojo Makeover Assessment. And essentially, we go in there, we see what feels crusty, we see what feels dusty. What do we want to let go of? What thoughts do we want to let go of? What do we want to change? And then together we create a plan. We create a guide of how we can start to live our more authentic, our more aligned self. And we start that conversation. And that's also on my website, wethelight.org. And again, I make different things. People want to get in there and talk to me. If they're like, I don't really want to talk to you, I want to take my time with you. Great. We have the podcast, we have the book. So I like to give options for folks because we all deserve this type of care. So there's many options that we can start to delve into, and I'm here.
So you mentioned podcast. So elaborate a little bit more.
Yes, yes. So thanks for asking. So the podcast is called, so my last name is Wiederlight. So the podcast is Welcome to the Weider Life. And it's different episodes, right? Some might be on sex, some might be on mindset, some might be on self-love, body love. I love to riff too. So I may say, oh my gosh, I just saw this in a client session. Let's talk about this. And I talk about different things. It's for me, I love it. folks have really gotten a lot out of it. I really try to jam pack it with tools. So sure, it's us talking, but it's also tools. I bring on awesome guests. It's great. And then also I should say this too. Some people are like, can I, I want to start to dip my feet. I'm like, follow me on Instagram. Like, let's start talking. I'm a real person. You know what I mean? So if you need support or like, do you have a resource for this? Yes, let's talk. So I'm on Instagram, _LLC. So if someone's like, hi, where do I start? Do you have a book recommendation or can we talk? Great. You have a new friend in your pocket. You know what I mean? So I
Nice.
always say, I'm here. Let's talk about it. I got you. I'd love to help you through in whatever way that means.
Okay, so
Exciting.
you say you have your website, you are on Instagram. What about Facebook and LinkedIn? Anything?
Yes, a little bit. Honestly, I post things here and there, but I think I'm most present on Instagram, and I'm more
Okay.
communicative on Instagram. But I am on LinkedIn at Erica Wiederlight, and I'm also on Facebook at Erica Wiederlight. So if you want to start a conversation, or I just want to be in your world and see some posts, that's great too. I'm doors open.
Nice. I'm sure a lot of people will get in touch with you because you know what? You have such a amazing energy.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you do.
Seriously,
I
you do
love
too.
your energy.
Thank
So,
you.
so we have a couple minutes left. So let me ask you my signature closing question that I have for all
Yes.
my guests. So this is the question. What is your closing message for humanity to help in our collective healing and empowerment?
Oh, that's such a good question. It's so good. Ah, okay. Mine is, it's so funny. This is the first thing that came to me is it really does all begin with us. That doesn't mean selfishness, right? We heal in community. This is all we're big, but it does start with us. I remember when I was going through spiritual training and meditation training, we do like a mantra, peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. And I really do think peace does begin with us because you know the deal. If we're out of alignment, if we're acting, well, no one's perfect, right? But if we're spilling our stuff onto other people, it spills and spills and spills and spills and spills. So I really do believe peace begins with me. And again, that's not to be perfect, but that's to learn how to honor ourselves, learn how to take care of ourselves because when we are, like we said, when our cup is filled, we make really good decisions. We can really support people. We can really go out of our way. When we're feeling crunchy and depleted, I don't want to really, I don't want to volunteer. I'm tired. I don't want to really help this person. I'm feeling resentful. But when we're filled up, we can really show up as a leader, as a community, someone in community, someone that could hold other people. So I know it feels counterintuitive to what we're taught, but peace begins with me. And I think that means learning how to take care of ourselves, learning how to honor ourselves. So then we can honor ourselves and we can honor others.
Yeah, this ties in so nicely with what we just talked about. Self-love,
Yeah.
self-awareness, focusing 5 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes, just focus on giving yourself pleasure, right?
Yes.
Connecting with yourself, connecting with your body. So yeah, that can I think, like what you said, it all starts with us
Yeah.
and the external world is kind of crazy right now,
Yes.
right? But I think the key is to just focus within. Focus
Yes.
on yourself, focus within. The external world will always be crazy. If you're putting your attention on the external world, you're going to be stressed out and it's not fun.
Right.
So I say put the focus within.
Yeah, and we're not adding anything. Like if we're in our like we're only creating more stress and panic in the
Disharmony.
world. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So like you said, it really does begin with us. Like that one lit up, us being lit up lights other people up, lights people up, and that is what creates the change and the healing.
Yeah, the ripple effect.
Yep,
Yeah.
totally.
Thank you, Erica, for being here. I so enjoyed our conversation and love your energy.
Thank you, you too.
So yeah, I would love to have you back on maybe next year and
Please, I would love to.
see how your business is going and we can talk a little bit more on more interesting topics.
Yes, I would love that. Thank you.
For everybody who's watching and listening, thank you for your time. And until next time, bye for now.